hope the coffee break served you well. And my name is Park. I'm from Vingroup Corporation, and I will represent the company today. So for those who haven't known about Vingroup, we are the largest listed company in Vietnam, and actually we are the one that VNDIRECT talked about earlier about how the big caps inflate during the past 12 months. And the way I want to present about Vingroup, I think we'll go through a quick presentation. I think in Thai investors, some of you have been known Vingroup quite well. We have been serving some tour from site visit tour for Thai investor in the past. And to put into perspective, Vingroup is one of the largest, we are the largest private holding company in Vietnam. We operate in 5 key different segments. First of all is the residential segment, which is we develop under 2 brands of Vinhomes and VinCity. Vinhomes is the premium brand, while VinCity is the upcoming brand that we are about to launch this year. And in real estate, we also have retail leasing, which is the Vincom Retail Company. Vincom Retail was actually listed last year as a separate company, and it is currently I think it is in one of the 15 biggest company in Vietnam. And in terms of the shopping mall itself, Vincom Retail is definitely the largest shopping mall developer, owner, and operator in Vietnam. Moving on, we also have the hospitality segment, which is the bottom on the right side of the screen. Hospitality is actually the first brand from Vingroup. We started out with the resort in Nha Trang, which is one of the key tourist destinations in Vietnam almost 20 years ago. And it is still the brand that we elevated on so much because most family, when they spend their vacation, that's why we see Vinpearl. We do have in hospitality, we also have not only the resort, hotel and resort, but also have amusement park and safari, which are the newer product that we developed during the past 24 months. We are the developer and operator of the only wildlife safari in Vietnam, and it has been quite well received by the community. In consumer retail, we have the supermarket and convenience store, which is under the brand name of Vinmart and Vinmart Plus, and the ICT retailing store under the brand of Vinpro. And we do have the platform of online that is called Adezoe. And in terms of network itself, I think we are the largest network of consumer retail in Vietnam, and that is what and all the supermarket and ICT retailing, they are based in our shopping malls, and they are one of the key tenants of Vincom Retail. And the 5th component of the ecosystem we have is the social infrastructure, which we develop and operate our own hospital under the brand of Vinmec, our educational system under the brand of VinSchool, and also we grow our own vegetable under the brand of Vinico. Vinico sell their product through Vinmart and Vinmart Plus, so basically they sell through the network of Vincom retail chain and our own convenience store. And last but not least, we have just announcement of our participation in the industrial segment. So last year, in September to be more exact, we have announced the plan of making our own car under the brand of VinFast, and we commenced the construction of the project already. And the plan is that in 2018 we will launch the first e-scooter, and in next year, in 2019, there will be the first car. And we are we are quite on the track to achieve that target. So that is how the Vingroup, how you should look at the Vingroup as a holding level. and how that is how the ecosystem of Vingroup integrated with each other. In terms of the history of the group, we actually the group started out when our chairman and his friends started the business in Ukraine after their graduation, and in early 2000s they tried to divest back of their wealth back to Vietnam, and from 2000 and 2010 you can see that the group has been evolving around the two initial brand of Vincom and Vinpro, and in 2010 when our chairman decided to move the whole team back to Vietnam, the group has grown exponentially from roughly a 1.6 billion dollar company to roughly $10 billion company in terms of total asset at the moment. I think I've gone through this slide before, so that's how we talk about the ecosystem of Vingroup. And so I think that VNDIRECT is doing quite well in terms of covering the macroeconomic of Vietnam, so I'm not going to repeat it here. But to give you a general idea of how we as a company look at the economy, we consider ourselves as a proxy for the Vietnam macroeconomy, because our motto is that to serve the Vietnamese, to create a better life for the Vietnamese people, and we try to serve the upcoming middle income class that is growing quite fast in Vietnam. So some key things that we try to look at, we usually look at the macro when we consider our decision is that, first of all, is the real GDP growth, definitely, which is one of the highest in the region, and it's been, so as VNDIRECT say, we continue to see a stable and healthy GDP growth in the next few years. And also that we have the very high level of working population among the total population itself, roughly about 50%, which is a little bit higher than Thailand of roughly 40 to 45%. And also we see that Vietnam is actually transforming itself into a consumption economy, where we see the private consumption is actually reaching one of the highest company in Southeast Asia, higher than Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. And just as I mentioned earlier, we can see that the growing middle class is set to be the next driver for consumption growth. And with that, that's how we set, and with that in mind, that's how we elevate the whole ecosystem of the group. The first and the most important factor within the group is, at the moment, is still the residential sale. So this slide talks about how the housing markets have been doing during the past few years. You can see that housing prices in Vietnam, or in this size, particularly in Ho Chi Minh City, is still at a very reasonable compared to other cities in Southeast Asia. And also, if you look at how mortgages market is still quite underpenetrated in Vietnam, and you can see that how the residential market is set to take off in the next couple of years, and we see that with private consumption growth, that means that people have more money to spend, and that's how we see that the real demand will be picking up. And the next driver for growth will be not only in the high-end segment, which has already taken off, but also the more middle and affordable segment. And another segment that we try to look at more closely is the segment for Vincom retail. How we can see here is that we are in Thailand now, and so the way we see Vincom retail is similar to that. We look at Central in Thailand. We look at Central 10 years ago, and we're seeing a lot of similarity, and that's how we believe Vincom retail is set to be the next. Is set to follow the same path and follow the same pattern that Central used to be. For some, for some characteristic here, you can see that the Vietnamese retail, modern retailing market is quite underpenetrated. If you look at the the retail GFA per capita in Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City is quite, is still less than, one, it's only 0.2 square meter per capita. If you compare that to the level, so it's like only 10% compared to that level in Bangkok. And only about 25% if you compare to the Manila. And also that you can see that Vietnam is transforming from the very much with the wet market into the modern retailing format. And so you can look at the grocery shopping. Vietnam the grocery shopping is only less than 5% account for the total grocery sale. And if you compare that to the level of 45% of Thailand, you can see that there's lots of room for improvement and development for Vietnam in the next 3 to 5 years. And that is how we see the actually growth. We see that Vietnam is actually achieving the highest growth, which is the evidence of what I've just said earlier. Vietnam is setting for the next, Vietnam's private consumption is the next driver for growth. This slide talks about how the residential has been evolving in Vietnam and how we position ourselves in that segment. Residential is actually the, residential under, that is the company, now we have the company, we call it Vinhomes, which is recently listed on the Ho Chi Minh Stock Exchange, and is the second largest listed company next to Vingroup itself. And Vinhomes, we operate under 2 brands. First of all, it's Vinhomes brand, the original high-end premium and luxury brand, and the VinCity brand, which is the brand that we are going to announce is later this year. These 2 brands is basically different in terms of pricing. The price for VinCity brand is much lower than price of Vinhomes brand, roughly about only about 60 or 70% of level of price of Vinhomes. And you see that the way we people may ask that why did you come into the VinCity brand, which is the question we have received it quite frequently. And the way we look at it is that if you look at the chart on the bottom left corner, you can see that the market, the addressable market for VinCity is much larger than the market for Vinhomes. If you look at the potential market for VinCity, this basically about 5 million of households. If you compare, and if you think that the current absorption rate in Vietnam, in Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City, is roughly about 60 to 70,000 units, that is the number compiled by consultant like CBRE or Savo, then that is hugely, that is the huge potential market for VinCity, for not only for Vinhomes but also for VinCity brands. And in the residential market, we are the undisputed leader because we think we have the largest land bank in Vietnam, much larger than the second, than the following competition. And we also have the best-in-class ecosystem. The way we develop our residential is that not only we develop the housing component alone, but also we develop a complete and integrated ecosystem. A typical project that we usually develop would have not only the residential, but we usually have the shopping mall, we have the entertainment facilities. Usually there will be the schools, and sometimes there will be in selected project there will be hospital. So basically we create a self-sustaining community and environment for the home buyers. So that's why we elevate on the brand, and we were able to sell our product at a much premium price than our and other developers in the market. So for the Vinhomes, for the residential portfolio, currently we have roughly about 36 projects with a total site area of over 160 million square meter of land bank, above which we can develop roughly about 91 million square meter of residential GFA that can be sold to the end user. This slide talks a bit about the how the consumer sectors have been evolving around the year, and how we have been able to achieve the growth in such sector. If you look at the Vietnam economy as a whole, then you will see that Vingroup is active in all the key segments of Vietnam's economy, which include the residential, the consumer retail. And so by doing that, we were able to elevate on consumers' consumption. And so that is how we see the potential in consumer retail segment. And that is why the reason why we set up our own supermarket and convenience store chain. And so starting out in roughly about 3 to 4 years ago, we launched the supermarket and convenience store. And from the merely of 10 stores from that time, we have elevated to like 1,200 stores nationwide at the moment, which I think is the largest network in total in Vietnam. In supermarket alone, I think we are the second largest in terms of presence and also in terms of sales. While in the convenience store, I think we are the largest one. And also that another factor that VNDIRECT also mentioned earlier, that Vietnam, they see that the ACV, the airplane company, is the key beneficial and is a undervalued company because of they see the huge potential growth in terms of tourism, and that is actually one of the segments that we also want to highlight, because Vinpearl is actually one of the we see Vinpearl is one of the key family destination for not only Vietnamese people but also for foreign people. And we have presence in all the key locations in key tourist destinations in central Vietnam and in the north and in the south. And I think we are one of the largest hospitality hotel manager in Vietnam. We have roughly 6,000. I think at the moment we have around 7,000 keys operated nationwide in 21 projects, and that would set and we will set that to double that number. We will set to double the number of keys operated in the next 3 years. This slide shows. This slide is a normal update for people who covers Vingroup frequently. So this shows how the network has been evolving around the time, and how we make the present at the moment. Well, there are, in hospitality, when we talk about keys, then one key is equal to one room or one villa managed. Right, so this slide talks about, as I mentioned about earlier, this slide talks about Vincom Retail in a short summary. So Vincom Retail, we see that we currently have roughly 1.3 million square meter of GFA, and that is set to the market share of roughly about 60% in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City. And if we count in other cities and provinces where there is no other developers other than Vincom Retail, then we see that the market should be gone, maybe even higher. And the way we look at Vincom Retail is that we look at key shopping mall developers in Southeast Asia, like Central Patana and SM Prime. And you can see that the history is similar, and development path is pretty much the same. So we see Vincom Retail in very much similar position to Central Patana about 10 years ago. And I think that we can see that and we are in a much better position than we think we are in a much better position in Central, because with the market share of roughly about 60%, we are we are the undisputed leader in the market, and there's no significant competitor in the market at the moment. And we are the only shopping mall developer and operator that was able to not only to attract but also maintain key international tenants. For example, Zara and H&M. Ever since their first store opening in 2016 for Zara in Vingroup Center, Dong Khởi in Ho Chi Minh City, they have been quite successful. That in the following year, they bring the Inditex they bring in following sister brand like Stradivarius, Massimo Dutti, and Pull & Bear for Zara, and also that H&M make their presence also in Ho Chi Minh City. And just 2 months after that, they expanded into Hanoi with another store, also in Vingroup Shopping Mall. And beside of Zara and H&M, which is a very much popular brand, we have all others typical brand. That is, for example, Mango, Furla or Aldo. All those names have their stores in Vingroup Shopping Mall, and they're quite happy with how their sales have been doing. So and with the shopping mall, then with the shopping mall expansion, Vingroup Retail currently we have around 46 shopping malls at the end of the first quarter, and by this day we have 51 shopping malls. In the last 2 months we have opened 5 more, and the aspiration number we try to achieve is around 20 shopping malls by 2021. So along with the expansion of the shopping mall, then we can see that also this the expansion of the consumer retail network, because our Vinmart supermarkets is one of the key tenants in Vingroup Retail Shopping Mall. So also by the expansion of the shopping mall, then we also see multiple growth in network expansion for Vinmart and Vinmart Plus, and with how the supermarkets have been doing, and how we see the Vietnamese people has been quite conscious about food safety and health and origin of the products as they are now, which is unheard of before. You can see that Vinmart and Vinmart Plus is quite in potential for growth. And to enable to maintain all those products and services, the way we approach that, we try to maintain an international level standard of quality and for services, because starting out with the chairman, when we have all the keys executive and directors that have not only have the experience in their respected field, but also have a strong international working history. For example, with VinFast, which is the newest brand, we have we invited the executive president from GM. He has been working with GM for like 30 years, and we have some key investor from Bosch to come out to help us to build the factory and the car. So I think that concludes the introduction of Vingroup, and I think that this slide can be quite easily found on our website. So I will not go through detail by details on this slide. So I think now move on to the Q&A session. Right. I think that now I have like roughly more than 10 questions popping up. Then I think I'll go by one. The first question is that the cross-holding structure between SDI and VIC and VIC, why SDI holds VRE, VinCommerce, Vinico, etc. instead of fully owned by VIC. SDI is also, for those who are not familiar with SDI, SDI is a SPV owned by Vingroup, SDI is originally the developer for the project of Vinhomes Riverside, which is the project where we have our headquarters. And SDI is also the developer for Vinhomes Gardenia, which is one of the landmark project in Hanoi. And Vinhomes Gardenia has basically completed, the project was basically completed this year. And the question is why SDI is the holding of other subsidiary of Vingroup like Vincom Retail, Vincommerce, and Vineco. The answer is that SDI is the hold. We try to from Vingroup as a holding company, we try to maximize the profit by restructuring our business through not only through operation, but also through the capital structure and ownership structure. And that's why we transfer part of the ownership of each company to a respective subsidiary like SDI. And for another update, in the first quarter of 2018, SDI actually sold out their ownership in Vincommerce back to Vingroup. In order to better serve the shareholders' benefit of the SDI, because Vincommerce is currently not making profit at the moment. The second question is that what is the future plan of business units under? What is the future plans of business under SDI? Will VIC buy back or any plan? The future plan of business under SDI. So basically, I think the question is about Vineco and Vincom Retail. For Vincom Retail, I think for the time being, we will maintain the ownership in. SDI will retain their ownership over Vincom Retail. And for Vineco, SDI is currently the holding company of Vineco. And as Vineco is continuing to expand their business by, we have collected a huge amount of arable land, and we will continue agricultural production on that to elevate the brand of Vineco. And as we see that there are multiple, we have seen the surging need in clean vegetables. So I think that SDI, Vineco will soon be will still be on healthy growth, and will still and so on going forward, I don't think there will be any changes in ownership of SDI over Vineco. The third question is both VHM, which is Vinhomes, and SDI has common activity in real estate. Will this merge as one group? What is the reason having two same business company? What is the difference? The difference is that SDI is, as I explained earlier, SDI is a SPV company, and so with the completion of Vinhomes Gardenia, currently there will be no further project development for SDI, and so SDI will be purely will be turning into some kind of holding or financial investment company. So if you look at that, and therefore there will be only one company that in charge of residential and commercial property development in Vingroup, which is Vinhomes. And and will this merge as one group? I don't think there will be merging of SDI and Vinhomes for the time being. Okay, the next question is why Thai, a retail company who operates in Vietnam, is unsuccessful, but Vincom Retail is successful. What is the key competitive edge of Vincom Retail? I think you are referring to Parkson. It's why Parkson is not successful. I think because of the reason lies in the model that Parkson tried to follow in Vietnam is the department store model, and which is also the model that Lotte follows in Vietnam. But looking at the Vietnamese market, I think that Vietnamese people the way we look at it is that by having more money to spend, they are looking at not only at the location to spend the money for shopping, but also some kind of integrated location where they can spend their whole day in the area. So that's why we see that Parkson and may not be working well because they lack of the entertainment facilities, and also that the location in Vietnam was not carefully chosen. For example, a location in landmark 72, which is one of the big developed real estate project in the west of Hanoi. But the time that they opened there was quite, in our view, they are a little bit early. So the infrastructure has yet to develop, and the catchment area is not built up yet. While with Vincom Retail, we are going by piece by piece. And so the first Vincom Retail we have is actually at the very central of Hanoi. And the first respective one in Ho Chi Minh City is also in the very central area of Ho Chi Minh City. And we built them to be the, not only to the shopping mall, but we built them as the, to be more like an aspirational for young people. So people who grew up with the going out to Vincom Center for, well, I think that the origin was that the associated with the development of cinemas in Vietnam also, with cinema distribution and modern cinema formats, where they actually have their very first location in Vincom Center. So a whole generation growing up would very much use the definition of Vincom Center with the cinema, and they're going out there like quite a habit, and going with that, they try to spend money not only in they change their shopping habit from not only for entertaining, then they change money to also to shopping also. So by carefully choosing the location and carefully executed each project one by one, then we're able to maintain a high level of loyalty customer. Then that's why when we were able to expand the format, it has been doing quite well. And also that the one of the formats that we kind of embark ourselves and set ourselves apart from other developers is actually the mega mall format, which is the integrated shopping mall underground or above ground, but basically integrated in a very large real estate complex. Usually the Avian Homes complex, but also with but there's one in others with other developers. So we have a large catchment area in existing community, but also we develop new features that hasn't been elsewhere in Vietnam. For example, an indoor ice skating rink or an indoor aquarium. So that indoor aquarium is actually quite well received by family and children, and so they bring the children, they bring the whole family to the our mega mall, just for the kids to have a look at the aquarium, but then they spend the whole day in the F&B area, and then moving forward, they also spend the money in the other shopping categories. So to sum up that question, my answer is that Vincom Retail set ourselves apart to build ourselves as a destination of the local community, and that's why and provide integrated platform with a tenant mix, not only with the for example clothing or fashion, but also for other components like F&Bs and entertainment, and which more focus on F&B and entertainment. That's why we're able to maintain a competitive edge. And also with the expansion and attraction from international tenants, for example, Zara and H&M. The next question is that I'd like to ask you your point about retail sector and threat from e-market. I think that if you're coming from other developing market, emerging market like Thailand, from in more developing market like US and UK, you can pretty much see that the concern is that the shopping mall is dying and e-market is emerging. But if you look at Vietnam infrastructure, banking infrastructure, you can see that banking infrastructure in Vietnam is still very much underdeveloped. People still prefer the cash culture. And so by doing the cash culture and because the e-commerce, there is a there's a concern about the origin of the product, and also that for most of the items that people can buy, most of the items, more valuable items, you cannot buy online. You still have to go offline to see the product yourself. And so by doing that, I think that e-commerce is more like a complementary marketing channel rather than a threat from our view. And we are actually working closely with our own e-commerce channel, which is called Adezo, and also we are working with our own tenants to marketing their products and shopping and their shopping stores online. So what we see is that result increasing not only in the footfall but also in total purchasing power of at the shopping mall itself. The next questions: can you describe the current real estate market situation? Both luxury Vinhomes and mid and Vin City, is there any sign of market saturation in both market? I think I have explained the situation before. If you look at the potential market of by the market model by consultant like Seabury or Savo, we see that current absorption rate in Hanoi Ho Chi Minh City is currently at about 60 to 70,000 units in own segment. And if you carve out the high-end segment, which is roughly about 20%, then we have roughly about the absorption rate about 50,000 units per annum. And that if that you compare that to the estimate that we currently have is that about 800,000 wedding happens per annum, then that is still very much under penetrated market in both ends. And so I don't think on the market saturation yet. And to be fact, during the most crisis time during the past 5 years ago, during 2012 or 2013, when the markets hit a very much bottom, Vinhomes product were able to sell pretty well. Not only that, because we were able to maintain the construction pace and we made the delivery promise to the customer, but also because that our product differ from the customer because we are the large scale integrated developer, and we integrate the whole community in our product, not only as residential alone. So even though when people buy a Vinhomes product or a Vin City product, they can be assured that they have a self-sustaining community. And that elevates our selling strategy, and also that elevates our selling capability pretty much. Any plan to regarding grocery chain or hotel subsidiary of listing? Not at the moment. One of the most indication that you need to when you have to go listing is that such project or such business has to make profit for consistently for at least 2 years, and by that standard we haven't made profit on the hotel business and the grocery retailing yet, because they are still pretty much under the ramp-up period and continuous expansion. And so they will still require more time for us to get those segments into stabilization, and only that, and we can consider the listing option. What is the outlook for both luxury and mid-end retail real estate for the next 2 to 3 years? I think I've tapped it in the previous answer, so I will not repeat it here. Can you share with us about your e-commerce business? Is there any worry about strong competitors like Alibaba and Lazada? I think at the moment the e-commerce business at Adezo is basically we are the market maker, and we allow all the tenants to all the people to go out there to do the business. So it's true that in Vietnam the e-commerce is evolving and large players is coming in with Alibaba, Lazada, other players. But the way we think is that there's still pretty much room for everyone, and so each will have their own growth path. And actually, Alibaba and Lazada, they are trying to burning the cash aggressively to maintain the market share, which is not the strategy we are following at the moment. We are tapping on the market by another channel, which is called the loyalty program that we have, which is the VNDIRECT, the largest loyalty program in Vietnam. Currently, we have roughly more than 4 million members in the program, and by doing that, we offer discount on our e-commerce channel. So that is pretty much a loyal customer base we have. Right. Can you provide future outlook for margin expansion of property section? What the percentage of total cost for land cost, labor cost, material cost? Right. Margin expansion for property session. Property session is actually we have the quite stable margin. With Vinhomes product, we basically maintain the level from 40 to 50% of gross margin for low rise, and roughly from 30 to 35% for high rise. And that level I think we will be able to maintain in the future. The total cost for land cost, labor cost, material cost. I think one of the most important thing is that the land cost and construction cost each representative something about I think about 20-25% of the total cost that we have. But other than that, there's also other costs as well. And for the details breakdown, I don't think I have I don't have the most updated numbers here, and I think I will answer this question later. The next question is, any plan to expand your healthcare business? The healthcare business is actually the business where we develop and maintain and operate our own hospital chain. We currently have 6 hospitals, all located in our Vinhomes project or adjacent to our Vinhomes project, and where we have the strong presence, of Vingroup project. So we will continue to expand that business, but also, only along with the development of our Vinhomes portfolio. And our plan is still to have 10 hospitals nationwide by 2020, and we are still on track. Next month, we'll open the 7th hospital. Next question for automobile segment. What is your key competitive advantage to compete with Japanese or Korean brand? I think in Vietnamese market at the moment, people actually prefer still prefer CPU units over the domestically built because of difference in quality. And the way we try to fill in the gap is that we try to create a domestic car with imported car quality. So that's why and with reasonable price. So that's how we try to will compete with in that segment. What is your target to open Vinmart Plus in the next in this year, next year? I think next year we are planning to open roughly 600, 700 Vinmart Plus per annum. How is VinFast future? Is the government do not support car manufacturing in Vietnam? Can VinFast compete with other car companies outside Vietnam? I think VinFast future is quite bright at the moment, because if you look at the way we look at our feedback from all the voting online that we have, we can see that the interest in Vietnamese cars is going quite well, with people expecting with us to deliver a high quality product with a reasonable price. And also that people do like the design concept that we are offering. So I think the future is quite bright at the moment. Not only that, in this year we are going to also launch the e-scooter, which is still very much a fragmented market in Vietnam. There's no clear dominant player yet, and the product itself is still questionable about the quality. For example, about the battery life is still very much limited. The people can only go like 50 kilometers before you have to charge it again. While with the current battery option we are developing, then we can go at least 80 kilometers, so 60% higher than, or maybe even up to 100 kilometers. And the battery can be changed and bought at the Vinmart Plus. So all of those options can be pretty much help the VinFast development in the future. If the government do not support car manufacturing in Vietnam, I don't think this is the case. Actually, currently the government already issued a decree on limited car import in Vietnam, and that will support the local manufacturing. Any chance to raise more capital from investors to expand business in the future, especially Vinmart and Vincom? I think that will depend on the specific demand at each time. Which company in the group owns Vinmart and retail shop? Retail shop, I don't know what you are referring to, but for Vinmart, that is Vincommerce, not Vincom Retail. Do you afraid of e-commerce disruption that will disrupt physical mall? The example is more in America. I think I tapped in this question earlier, so I will not repeat it here. I think the next question, also the last one, what will be the key factors to turn Vinmart be profitable and when? Vinmart and Vinmart Plus, the key profitable, I think is still that we will be able to maintain the increase in sales. And we're doing that by pretty much, last year we were actually doing some kind of rebranding for both brands. And upon the completion of rebranding, we see that the sales size increased pretty much. Probably by now we have increased like 60-70% per annum year on year. So I think we are going on the correct way. And I think that is for the Q&A session. Is there any question? I think we still have time for some more.
Do you want to share your financial overview?
The financial overview, I don't. We public our financial overview on our website, and also the financial statement is also available online. So I don't think I need to share in details here.
Okay, thank you very much.